Welcome, everybody. I'm Brooke Lovelace. I'm the Executive Director of the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council. Welcome to our probably hottest capital chat of the 2023 year. Let's hope it's the hottest. If we go hotter past August, we're really in trouble. We've got a lot to cover today. We even have a special guest that I'll let Amy go ahead and introduce. But we are also going to talk about voting and caucuses and some of the federal advocacy that you can do, and then round off with some opportunities and some resources for you guys to do your own advocacy. So again, thanks for joining us today. And I think with that, I'll turn it over to Amy.
Thanks, Brooke. Welcome to everybody. I'm Amy Campbell, and many of you have seen me before, but I work with the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council on their InfoNet project and do a lot of their support for public policy. So I'm really excited to have a special guest here with John Hollenreich. He is Senator Ernst, Senator Joni Ernst, State Director. And I got to know him when he worked at the state capitol, when he worked with two of, especially one of my favorite legislators, Senator Carrie Kelker, but also Chris Knoyer. He was, I think, maybe the only person that was brave enough to take on two state senators and be their staffers at the same time. But I also found out you're an Ankeny grad, which I'm shocked by. I'm an Urbandale grad, so we know we have a long time rivalry there. But I wanted to have him join us today to talk a little bit about, working with your federal delegation. It's a little different than, at the state capitol, but we had a little bit of a preview of that with Bob Bacon our last Capitol chat. And we know there's a lot of things going on and will be going on in Congress as they get back off their month-long recess that they had over the month of, since the 4th of July. So I thought it would be a good time to have him come on and just chat a little bit. And if you have questions for him, we'll have time as well. So John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for that. Very, very nice introduction, Amy. Appreciate it. So as Amy said, I'm John Hollenreich. I'm the Deputy State Director for Senator Ernst's office here in Des Moines, and I am an Ankeny native and Ankeny Centennial graduate. If that makes the rivalry any better for you, Amy. But I did get my start working at the state level in politics and government before I moved over to Senator Ernst's office. So I've worked for her for a little over 4 years now. Started out as her regional director in Des Moines and had a territory of 18 counties in central Iowa, basically from Highway 30 down to the Missouri border, with about 1 million folks in there, so about a third of our state's population. And then earlier this year was promoted to my current role. So in addition to all the things I was doing before, help oversee the staff in our 5 state offices and the senator's work on small businesses. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of Senator Ernst's office and how we operate in the state and in DC, and then I'll stop and open it up for questions because I think that's where the real value is. But as Amy mentioned, it's a little different than at the state level. So on the federal level, Senator Ernst has quite a few staff, much more than you would see at the Iowa Capitol. We have 5 offices around Iowa. They're in Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Davenport, Council Bluffs, and Sioux City. And those are offices that are staffed with full-time Senate government employees just like me that are open, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, except for federal holidays. And they're always available for folks that either want to call in or stop by and see them in person. And really what we do in the state, it's separated into 2 buckets, I would say. Everyone who does what we call constituent services works in our state offices. So that means that any of you or any Iowan for that matter that are having any challenge with a federal agency, it doesn't matter which one, what the acronym is or what they do, we have the ability to advocate on your behalf if there's something about the federal government that is not working the way it should be. And now that's a free service that we provide to you as a taxpayer. So that's at no cost, and that can range from a variety of topics, whether you're struggling with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, getting your passport. That's a popular one this time of year. So really the post office, you name it, we're available and accessible for those issues. And I do just want to reiterate that those are at at no cost to you as a taxpayer. Unfortunately, we have, just like everyone else, we have instances of, people scam people into paying money to talk with us, and that's not something you ever have to do. You never need to pay someone money to have us help you. So I just want to make sure I really emphasize that. And then the second part of what we do is we do represent the senator in the positions she's taking on her policy stances in Washington. And that's more the side that I handle now in my current job, meeting with folks all over the state about any issue that she's working on. And then the final piece that the folks in my role play too is we also travel with her throughout the state, her 99 county tour. So we just completed ours 2 days ago. We hit 99 of 99. But if you ever come to one of our town halls or meetings, myself and the other staff are the ones you'll see with her. So, and then just to stop, one last point, and then I'll open up for questions. Senator Ernst, she currently serves on 3 committees out in Washington, and that's the Agriculture Committee, which has to do with all of our farm programs and rural development issues. She serves on the Armed Services Committee, and that has everything to do with the nation's military and national defense. And then she is currently the ranking member on the Senate Small Business Committee. That just means that she's the most senior Republican on that committee. If we were in the majority, it would be chairman, but we're in the minority, so she's ranking member. And the Small Business Committee has jurisdiction over all what are defined by the federal language as small businesses. And just to give you a broad definition, any business with less than 500 employees, the federal government considers to be small. I use air quotes because in Iowa, we would consider that to be pretty big business if you have 500 employees, but that's the federal number. And in Iowa, 98% of all incorporated businesses have less than 500 employees. So through this committee, she really has a good opportunity to interact with almost any business that you're interacting with in your community on a daily basis. The laws that we're passing through Congress that impact them through small business rules go through our committee. Amy, hopefully that was a good intro, and I'll pause there.
That was great. Thank you very much. I also wanted to note, I noticed we have a state representative on. I wanted to just thank Representative Josh Turek for joining us too. I don't think I saw any other elected officials on there. I do apologize if I missed you, but does anybody have any questions they want to ask John about an issue or ways to connect with Senator Ernst? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. Nobody likes to be the first one, I know.
Looks like Tammy unmuted.
Yeah.
Well, this is Tammy, and I just unmuted myself, and I'll get my video going here so you can.
Thanks, Tammy.
You don't have to look at Einstein anymore, but although that's a cool statue at the in the state or in the United States Capitol. Anyway, my question relates to something that I've heard on the presidential campaigns, and it's interesting to me that it came up, and it's really the only time I've heard about it, is Chinese people buying land in this country. And I wondered how much of that is in Iowa and how Senator Ernst is working with any of those kind of issues.
Yeah,
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, we're very fortunate in Iowa that we have a state law in place that is very good at prohibiting foreign ownership of agricultural land. So in Iowa, we do have that state law in place that very much limits the amount. But that is a very real issue, and it's something that Senator Ernst is very concerned about. To put it in a national perspective, and this is not just Chinese, now China is the predominant land buyer, but to put it nationwide in all countries, the total ownership of foreign land in the United States is equivalent to the size of Tennessee. It's millions and millions of acres. And Senator Ernst's position on this is that she explains to folks that if there's a nice Canadian couple or someone else from any other country that wants to buy a vacation home at Lake Okoboji or something like that, she has no problem with that. That's private business. And if Iowa wants to sell their vacation home to someone from Canada, she doesn't think the federal government should interfere with that. However, when it comes to, we've seen examples of the Chinese government has bought a lot of farmland in the Dakotas around sensitive military installations because they do not have the same state laws we do. And that's a very big national security concern for her. And they're not doing that for any good intent. There's no economic reason that justifies the amount of money they paid for that land. So it's very obvious that they bought, you know, lots and lots of acres around an Air Force base for bad purposes in her mind. So she is the sponsor of a law that would basically prohibit this nationwide, very similar to the way that Iowa law already does.
Well, thank you. And I didn't mean to go off the wall of sort of our issues, but that just like hit me that, oh man, that's a big deal. Anyway, thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any thoughts, questions?
To piggyback off of that,
Go ahead.
sorry, Representative Josh Turek, to piggyback off of that, at the state level, we're addressing some issues with foreign land ownership of farmland with a mega project bill, but we have put in guardrails in place that would limit that to only individuals that were in good relationship with us. That would mean NATO or Australia or places like that. So it would certainly limit any ownership from a place like China. Just wanted to let that be known.
Thanks, Josh. Paula.
Hi, John. I am a full-time caregiver for my son who has significant disabilities. As you probably heard, the direct care staffing crisis is a huge issue for all of us. It is very hard to find people, to keep them, to entice them to come work given the pay. I'm also working on this issue at the federal level. We've had several meetings with CMS and also Secretary Becerra's office, and they tell us in order to make sure that everything's consistent across all the states, we need to amend a couple federal rules. I wrote your office twice and haven't received a response. It's been going on 6 months. And I was asking, I'd like to ask if you think that's something Senator Ernst would be willing to support, is to allow either a parent or a legally responsible adult to be paid for caregiving for their child, and whether or not you would be willing to help change those laws. So rather than a patchwork of states putting together a plan, we would have federal guidelines.
Yeah, Paula, thank you for bringing that up. So Senator Ernst has for several years now supported the Credit for Caring Act at the federal level. There's a similar version at the state level you might be familiar with.
Right. I am.
Okay, yep. So she's supported that for multiple years and continues to support that. Sorry that you haven't gotten a response back from us on your specific question. I think in terms of knowing whether she would support that change to the HHS regulations, we would have to know specifically what they're proposing before I could say whether or not that's something she would be in support of. But it's definitely a conversation that we're willing to have.
Okay. Would you mind putting your email in the chat, and I will I will write you again, and so you have it. Would that be all right if I direct it to you? Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
Well, and I know we're coming up on October is going to be here like before we know it, as fast as everything's going these days. But October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And so I know a lot of people may be reaching out to your office, John. We usually work with state legislators, but you know, we have a Take Your Legislator to Work to show and kind of highlight and put a spotlight on employers who hire people with disabilities, and then we really spotlight the person who's working, and we've gotten some great videos on that and everything. So I just want to give you a heads up that you might hear from some of our advocates asking if Senator Ernst might be interested in going to work with one of her constituents and focusing on disability employment. I know Brooks sits on many of the committees that are working on some of the solutions to remove barriers to allowing people to work. And I know you know, from the state level as well as the federal level, workforce is such a huge issue. So just a heads up, I was just talking so people would get another chance to raise their hands. If anybody else has anything.
I thought I saw Diane with her hand up, but now I can't find her. I wonder if she got kicked off somehow.
She's on. I see her.
Okay. Diane, not to put you on. Did you have a question?
You can unmute yourself if you do. Maybe not. All right, last.
Oh, she didn't. Okay.
Okay. Last chance, everyone. Well, thank you again, John, for too many J names. John, for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And I know you probably would not mind having a few hours or an hour, the remaining left of this hour to catch up on stuff, but really appreciate you taking the time.
No, yep. Thank you everyone for having me on. Appreciate meeting with you. And I'll just plug our website is ernst.senate.gov. You can always contact us through that or find the contact information for our phone or a mailing address on that website if you have any interest in getting a hold of us once I'm off the call today.
Awesome. Thanks again so much. Have a good
Thank
weekend.
you, Amy.
Yep.
Yep. Bye-bye.
I'm going to go back and share my screen with everybody again. So hold on just a minute. We'll get started right back up. Well, and also if you have other questions that you think of later, I talk to John pretty frequently, so I can, I'm happy to forward those with you. Or if you do have problems getting responses from federal offices, usually between Brooke, Carlin, myself, or Craig, we might be able to help you out. I'm just throwing these slides up again from June, just so that you have these up again. They will be on our website this afternoon. So right after this, I have a meeting right after this, but by 2 o'clock, we'll have it up on our website. So you'll have the PowerPoint so you can have all of this information, but it is also, the screen is also in the June presentation. So you can see we're getting ready to have legislators go back to work on a budget. They have to pass a budget, and there's a number of policy issues that they're working on right now. Again, Senator Ernst website there, along with Senator Grassley, and then again, you're all represented by a U.S. Congressperson as well in one of those districts. So again, this was up in our June slides. Did want to mention, we posted on our social media that Senator Grassley is still doing his 99 county meetings and has 2 more next week on Monday and Tuesday in Missouri Valley on Monday, 4 to 5, and in Ida Grove from 2:30 to 3:30 on Tuesday. So if you live in those areas, there's a good opportunity to connect with your federal delegation. So I'm going to switch over to voting. It's kind of in a weird timing on that, because we actually do have an election this November and a lot of people forget about it. So I wanted to just reiterate, it's a great time for you, your friends, people you know, other people in your area that you see, to have them double check their voter registration, just to make sure it's correct, like it has your correct address. If you need to make some corrections to a name change, maybe you got married or divorced, maybe you know, you changed addresses. It's a good time to get all of that updated, so you don't have to worry about it when you get close to election day. The Secretary of State's office, you can search up your voter registration. If you're not listed, you can also register online, or you can go to your local county auditor's office. But the Secretary of State has some good resources on their website. But since you're before all of the elections and before absentee balloting starts, you know, it's a good time to just double check that you're registered. This year we do have an election on November 7th. And that's for school board and city offices. So city council, or if you have aldermen, mayors, those individuals are up, and we know there's been a lot of more interest in school boards with all of the challenges to books and other things that are happening, and concerns about social emotional learning, which many of us know that is more than just some of the issues that are being brought up around that. So it's a good time to kind of get to know who's running. I just wanted to remind people that you have to be registered to vote 15 days before an election. Otherwise, you have to do same day registration, which requires some more documentation. Sorry, should have brought water. And then early voting starts today, August 25th, is 70 days before the election. So you can walk into your county office and start voting. The mail-in ballots, there was a law change. So if you do get a ballot by mail, you have to have that to the auditor's office in their office before the polls close. So it no longer matters when the postmark is. It has to be there physically by that time. So I'm just reminding people, if they decide to vote by mail, do it. Just turn it around fast if you want to make sure it can get into the mail in time to get there. So looking ahead, before we talk about the caucuses, looking ahead, next year is the November 5th, 2024 is the big election when we elect a president. All of our US representatives, half of the Iowa Senate, half of the House of Representatives, or all of the House of Representatives. And we think there's a couple constitutional amendments that'll be on the ballot then too. So that's, while this is a smaller election, there is one big one coming up. So it's always good to make sure your registration is updated. Also, a lot of people don't realize that people get paid to work at the polls. And there is a recruitment website there that if you're interested in working at the polls, it is all day. It's a long day, but they're always looking for people who are willing to work at the polls. And that is a nonpartisan position. You go there and just make sure people their rights are not being violated, and they can vote. The Iowa caucuses. So some of you probably been keeping up on this. It's kind of hard to find out all of the information right now, but we know that the Republicans have announced that they will hold their caucus, the first in the nation, on January 15th, which also happens to be Martin Luther King Day. It's usually at 7 p.m. I'm assuming it'll be the same time. They have said that they chose that date because people are off of work. But I do not know about the Democrats, but that's still up in the air. I have not heard anything about that lately, and I haven't seen anything posted, but we know that the Republicans changed the rules about caucuses at the Capitol this last session, to allow them to set their own rules about being registered to vote. So you could previously register to vote at the caucus, change your registration to Republican or Democrat. If you were a no party, or if you're a Democrat and wanted to vote in the Republican caucus, you could change it right there at the caucus. We don't know what their rules are going to be, but they may set them so that you have to be registered to vote as a Republican months, weeks in advance of it. So just so you know, if you wanted to vote in the Republican caucus and maybe you aren't registered as a Republican now, you might want to watch that and make sure that you are registered in advance so that you can still participate. The Democrats, as I mentioned, lost their first in the nation status to South Carolina. Their South Carolina is going to be on February 3rd. So we don't know when the Democrats will set their caucus. They could go before, the February 3rd deadline, but the National Party has said that that might make it so that our delegates don't count. I don't know. It's not going to be a very competitive caucus probably on the Democratic side. So since the incumbent is running again, and I've also heard that they may not do the presidential preference selection at the caucus, so that they can do a mail-in option so that they could get broader participation. So what I want you all to know is we usually come up with a caucus guide. That's going to be a little different this year, depending on what the rules what rules are adopted. So we will have materials once those decisions are made. We just don't have a timeline on that at this point. We just wanted to remind people that to caucus, you have to be eligible to vote. You have to be 18 by the 2024 election. So you could be 17 in caucus if you were going to be 18 by November 5th of 2024. And you have to be registered with the party that you're caucusing in. So you can, in the past, you've been able to register there, then change it the next day if you wanted to. You just have to be on that night, be registered with that party. So I'm going to stop there and pause if anyone has questions about the elections or caucuses, or, well, we know somebody watched the Republican debate because that issue with China ownership came up with, I think it was Nikki Haley that mentioned that. But we know the state fair is now just done, and I did not get a chance to hear any of the candidates on the soapboxes, but just thought I'd stop here and pause and see if anybody watched any of it or heard anybody on the soapboxes or have any comments or questions. I lost my chat. I'm gonna open that back up. Oh, I didn't mean to do that, although that is next. We'll just go right into that then. And so we just wanted, before we start talking about all of the DD Council resources and different opportunities that are out there right now for participation, we talked a little bit about what the DD Council priorities were going to be for next year, but we just wanted to give people a chance to bring up any issue that they're thinking about. Maybe if you've talked to your legislators about something or met with your legislators, just kind of open it up for thoughts right now. I don't know, Brooke, if you have any other comments too.
I was trying to unmute. Yeah, I think we were wondering for you guys too, that we might start doing this at each Capital Chat where we open it up. So it's more of a discussion. So you're not just hearing from Carla and Amy and I the whole time. So start thinking about that for future Capital Chats. If there's issues you want to talk about, we're going to start giving a little bit of time for you guys to do that. So hopefully there might be somebody today that wants to mention something that they're working on, but we're going to start doing this each Capital Chat. So you can come prepared with that.
I have something.
Yep.
I just got served papers and I actually have MS and I have a problem with mobility, but yet the city code enforcer is coming down on me hard for, he actually stole my car earlier this year and we had to buy it back on auction because he called it a junk vehicle, but I'm trying to work so I can repair it and get it drivable again. But he's on me about the junk car in the yard, which is not junk. The golf cart, which is in the driveway. I'm looking to get it safe to drive. The shed in our driveway is on skids. It's not against city code, but yet he's coming down on me for that. But it's large and I have to get it into the backyard. But I have limited means. So, and there's got to be other people around the state with disabilities that the city's coming down on them for. So how do we protect people like that?
Which city do you live in, Eric? Just out of
Jefferson.
curiosity.
Jefferson.
Oh, okay. So I know like some of the bigger cities have a office that you can appeal to. I'm not sure how all cities are structured.
Yeah, there's got to be a civil way to talk about this. The guy just keeps sending me certified mail rather than knocking on the door and speaking to me face to face. He sends you the certified mail and you've got to go to a hearing. It's like, why? I'm not doing anything, it's not neglect.
Yeah,
He's complaining about the weeds in the yard. I went out and actually did the screwdriver and took the weeds out of the sidewalk myself. So things are not out of hand.
Eric, have you gone to one of your city council meetings to share this issue?
I don't dare. No.
You don't dare, is that what you said? I didn't quite hear you.
Right. I would be deemed a terrorist. That's to me, that's not a very civil way to take care of it. I just don't know how to do this, the right way. Other than go to the administrator.
Yeah, I was gonna say they work for your city council, so your mayor and your city council. I don't know if Jefferson's divided into, like, if they serve at large or if they are divided into districts in the city, but I know our city council people take those concerns pretty seriously when it comes to, like, they can be your advocates with the administrator, depending on, and then of course then they're up for election this year too, so if they don't help you, you can maybe find somebody running again. Sometimes they don't have people that are challenging them, but you can.
Well, and this person that keeps sending me mail was actually another citizen wrote up a petition to have them fired, and this person had the petition drawn up. They had signatures collected, but the city council ignored it.
And Brooke, I don't know enough about like this. Like, do most cities have to have civil rights commissions? Do they all have civil rights commissions that you can make a complaint to them that you feel like you're being targeted unfairly? I think Roxanne put something on there too. Roxanne wrote that Jefferson Matters Group, which is off of the southeast corner of the square, wondered if they could possibly help too.
Okay.
And the county might also be a resource too. I'm just drawing a blank of what county Jefferson is in.
It's in Greene County.
Greene County.
I was gonna say county also. I don't know what that would mean, but checking with the county board of supervisors.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, Eric, we have your contact information, so I might do a little research if you don't mind about the question that Amy brought up about the commission and who they file complaints with. But I do think Tammy's correct that there might be something at the county level where they could step in too.
Yeah.
Eric, this is Paula Conley. I would also echo what Roxanne shared about Jefferson Matters. I know I'm active in my local neighborhood association, and when I Googled Jefferson to see if they had any neighborhood organizations, that's what came up. Okay. And if you're not comfortable, and I get it, speaking, in a larger group, maybe doing something on that level might be very helpful. I know we handle a lot of issues like that in our neighborhood group. They come up all the time.
Well, I'm active on the national stage, but I'm not active on the stage. So I'd like to get more so maybe I'll reach out to matters.
Yeah, it looks like it might be helpful, but anyway, I just know from experience, my Des Moines Neighborhood Association, it's been really helpful to a number of people who've had those sort of issues, and just again, the public awareness that, you know, when you have a disability, you don't always have dollars for somebody to come mow your lawn and do all those chores, and we need to be doing a better job as a community, how to help folks who could use that kind of assistance. So
And
good
there's
luck.
more. There's more locally that I'd like to see happen. There's actually veterans are being condemned for riding their scooters on the streets, but the city's not real ADA compatible. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
two issues. There's
that's
a,
frustrating.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Other people, thoughts, want to bring up, or
Deb Hobbs has her hands up. I don't know if you can see that, Amy.
I didn't, but go ahead and unmute, Deb.
Thank you. I was wondering if Paula could give more information on what she's doing and how we can encourage who we should be encouraging to get more people working in this field. My daughter too is experiencing the problems of having a shortage of staff. So just who can I connect with to help with that? Thank you.
Sure. I'll follow up with something in writing to Carolyn and Brooke and copy Amy so it can get out. At the state level, I can tell you that HHS or DHS was who they used to be, has filed state plan amendments to allow parents to be paid caregivers for minor children. It's always been an option if your child is over 18 to be a paid caregiver if they're on the waiver through, I don't want to get in the nitty gritty here, but there is an option that allows you to do that. The group I got involved, I do some consulting, and I got asked to join this group at a national level, and I can send more information about them. It's a group of parents who are advocating rather than every state kind of do their own thing. And there's various rules. It just as complicated. What states will allow you to do what in terms of being a paid parent caregiver. So we started doing the research to determine what nationally could be done so that it was a blanket guidance, blanket policy all across the state. So it didn't matter if you lived in Iowa or Hawaii, you would still have the same options. Everybody'd be on a level playing field. And the group is called CMS, Paid Parents Caregivers. And as I said, I will make sure I get that information later today off so that that can be shared. Just know that kudos to our Iowa Medicaid director. She's done a lot in terms of advocating that this happen at the state level. And this is currently an option for families, and it's our understanding will continue to be an option to be a paid caregiver regardless of your child's age. And I know even when I do have caregivers, I would say at least once a week, someone cannot show up or someone's on vacation. And I just found myself, as my son aged, it was increasingly harder and harder for me to work full time. And, you know, I've got bills like everybody else. And I think this is a nice option for families to have. So that's why I'm working on the issue, but I will definitely get some more information out for you.
Yeah,
Thank
Paula,
you very much. Just a couple more question. So this group is focused on parents or someone you trust being paid, but not really focused on how to get more people, not family members, into the field. And the second thing I wanted to ask was, I was sitting in on that meeting, that was the Medicaid meeting yesterday. I don't know if anybody else was on that, with Liz Matney.
Yes.
And she talked about traveling around the state. And I wondered if there's a way to encourage people to go to those meetings, and if that's a plan in place, and if there's a plan in place to encourage legislators to go to those meetings to hear the stories.
I'm writing that down so I remember to.
To
And I,
ans- okay,
go ahead, Paul. I was just gonna say,
I was
we
just going to say, to answer your question directly, no, this group is not working on building capacity to increase the number of direct caregivers. I do know that there are several efforts going on, and connecting with the Medicaid town hall is a good way to find out about various work groups, various options to make your voice known. I do know that there is some work going on in this area, and then I'll let Brooke talk specifically about the Medicaid town halls and the tour that's kind of ongoing, for lack of a better word. I know they're visiting a lot of cities.
actually, just two things to say there is that we do share that information through our social media and through Infonet about those town hall meetings, and try to encourage people to go. And Amy, I'm not sure, I'll have you maybe talk if legislators have been invited to do that or encouraged to do that. And Deb, that is one of the priorities or agenda item that the council has had the last couple of years that we continue to work with legislators on, is to increase and direct support professionals. And so that's something that you can continue to count on the council keeping to educate legislators on. And Amy, I don't know if you want to talk just briefly about if legislators go to those town halls. I haven't seen any when I've been on, but
Yeah, I go to them sporadically. Sometimes I'm on the provider one, sometimes on the consumer one or member one. So I think maybe I've seen one, and Sarah Trongariot's the only one I've ever seen on them, but there could have been other ones I may have just, just seen her name on it. But that's a good thought, that could be a request that somebody makes too. If they're planning on sharing something on that, maybe they invite their legislator to hear some of those stories. Yeah, I don't think I've seen anyone, but then again, I guess I'm not looking for it.
I haven't been to any of the in-person town hall meetings. Are there things that happen that legislators could benefit from?
I haven't been to the in-person one either, but we haven't had one for so long, other than the ones that they recently had to get input on their initiatives. But I always think there's value to legislators in hearing what their constituents are up against. And that's why I'm wondering, I bet people don't even think, if they're planning on bringing something up, that maybe to let their legislators know that as well.
I've noticed the email about the scholarship for the town halls. How does one actually come up with the ideas or pull one together?
That's an excellent segue into I don't want to cut this discussion off, but we are getting to within 10 minutes. So I'm going to just move our screen ahead. And if you don't mind me skipping that for a second, Brooke, we'll go back to the Make Your Mark conference and do this slide first. But one of the things that we wanted to make sure, Carlin's going to kind of give you some ideas of opportunities, but maybe Carlin, if you want to skip right to town hall and advocacy grants and then kind of cover the rest of that too. And then we can go back to the other slide.
Sure. Thanks, Amy. And hi, everyone. I'm Carlin Crum, the Public Policy Manager for the DD Council. And we wanted to highlight a few ways that you could, are opportunities for you to showcase your issues and have your voice be heard. And one of them would be organizing a town hall. We have several groups around the state considering it. Some ideas that you might think about, and you know, basically town hall, the idea is to you know, gather people who are focusing on common issues, and of course for us it's those that affect people with disabilities and being able to live independently in your community, and all the issues that surround that, and inviting your elected officials to hear those stories and then get their feedback about what are some ways that we can all work together to move these issues forward, and ways that we can be advocates and ways that they can make public policy changes that would have a positive effect. So it's a discussion. It doesn't have to be formal. It could be at a coffee shop, or it could be at an assembly hall and be large. And there's other unique ways that people are also getting their legislators to come visit with them. There was recently a town hall in Sioux Center where they had a sensory event for children and families, and invited legislators, and it was at their fire department. And the police, sheriff's office were there, and elected officials came and talked about you know, just the issues that affect kids, and having, you know, some hands-on ways to talk about issues, and just get to know your legislators also locally. So the ideas, you know, can be as creative as you would like to make them. And actually, I'm glad that Representative Josh Turek is on here too, because I just talked to him a couple of weeks ago about ways that are, you know, what gets legislators to come to these town halls. And he just said, you just need to invite people. It's not that hard, and we're there to listen. So, you know, gather a group of people with common interests and invite your legislators, have some coffee and donuts, and, you know, it can be as simple as that. We have those applications on our website. The best time to do it is in the fall, or now, when before the session starts, the legislative session coming up in January. And so they hear your issues and can consider what they can do in the upcoming legislative session. And then during the session, we offer Capital Advocacy Day grants, where we will work with you on one day and do some training on how to put together your message, and then actually go to the Capitol and talk to your legislators as they're available about your issue. And so we can guide you through that too. And those opportunities are on our website also. So those are ways that you all can be active, and we can help support you in that. And I can come back and answer questions about that, but I'll comment on some of the other ways too, especially since we were talking about direct support professionals. And in September, there's a week set aside for direct support professional recognition. And so one of the ways that we're trying to highlight this crisis, and also the crisis of a lack of enough direct support professionals, and what they do to attract people, you know, as to a career, and also let people know that, or let lawmakers know what are some of the issues that is affecting this crisis, is highlight who they are and what they're doing. And that's what Direct Support Professional Recognition Week is in September. We also have some of our provider agencies that we work with and communicate with regularly, who are asking their direct support professionals to invite their legislator to come see what they do in a day. and actually know what that particular job is all about, so they can see it firsthand. So that's a little bit of a twist on National Disability Employment Awareness Month, which is October. And traditionally we encourage people to invite their legislator to come visit them at work, so that, as Amy mentioned, we can spotlight employers that are hiring people with disabilities and whatever kind of accommodations they might need to make. And also what are some of absolutely the benefits of employment, and also some of the challenges that some people might have in getting to work. And sometimes that involves their direct support professional staff supporting them. So there's a variety of ways that we are trying to promote the profession, communicate with lawmakers about the needs that are out there, and the crisis that it really is. And if I could skip down to some of the last opportunities there, Allies and Advocacy Group actually had a virtual town hall meeting in July. And this is an advocacy group that is working to encourage other people to do town halls. And so we have a video, their video is posted, and we can send that out to all of you that participated today. That was a great example of how advocates can tell their story and get their legislator to a meeting to hear what those stories are and what those issues that they're trying to move in a policy way or other ways. And we have areas on our website too that we can promote your stories and your topics. So please send those to us and let us know what we can do also to help you out. And I'd be glad to talk to anybody offline about the town hall grants and the Capital Days grants. And my contact information is on our website too. I'll turn it over to Brooke and talk about our Make Your Mark conference and ways that you can connect there too, if you might still be able to come. It's next week though, it's coming right up.
Yeah, I believe the registration is open through the end of today, but we are actually pretty excited about it. I think the last that we heard, we had 170 folks registered, and I know I see some names on that are with us today that are attending this year's conference. So we're excited to have you. We're super excited with the keynote speakers that we have. Hayden Crystal, who is a well-known national speaker who identifies as being deaf and LGBTQ. And then we also have a person with a disability from Pennsylvania, Bill Krebs, who's another one of our keynote speakers, who's going to be talking about being on boards and commissions and not having it be just a tokenism spot, which is something the council cares a lot about. So hopefully you are registered for it. As Carlin says, we are running out of time. For those that may be new to the council, this is I can't believe this is, we're saying this, but this is our 10th year of doing our self-advocacy conference. And I think it just gets better and helps advocates connect every year. I think we get a little bit better at doing this. And I should put a shout out too for folks that I know that are on here. We've got great breakout sessions too from a lot of our Iowa speakers that are well known on experts on some of their topics they talked about, such as employment, IABLE, those types of things. So if you're missing out this year, please think about attending next year. As I said, we do this every year. And we're super excited. It's next week already. I can't believe summer's almost over.
Yeah, and thanks, Brooke. I know we're running out of time here, so I just wanted to wrap up with a couple of reminders. And we've been posting about this. It's on the HHS website, but they are tomorrow, they close the consumer survey for stakeholder input on the service delivery alignment. So that's a lot of that is regions and the regions that where services are delivered. So I understand it's only 10 questions. And I did hear it's pretty quick to go through. So if you have not yet provided your input, you got today and tomorrow to do that. So I don't know what time tomorrow it closes, but you might want to do that today. And then also HHS has really been working hard on their website. I know in InfoNet next month, we'll put in some more information. Today, they just announced a new dashboard that has a wealth of information in it. So it's not on our slide here, but but they have worked really hard on their home initiative, which is their part of the waiver redesign and the kind of shifting more toward home and community-based services and a focus on HCBS. And they're calling it the Hope and Opportunity in Many Environments, or HOME initiative. So you can find that information and how to get more involved. And they are going to have input sessions. They don't have them set up yet, but there's a website there that you can register to get involved, and they'll make sure that they communicate when they have those opportunities. So just a couple of quick things at the very end here to remind you of.
And Amy, I can give you an update. In yesterday's Medicaid town hall, they did advertise the cities and dates that they will be launching their home campaign in, and those, they promised that that would be up on their website today. So
Perfect.
that should be up
Yeah.
soon.
So go to that website there, the IME/home. HHS has gotten a lot more accessible in their, I remember they used to have really long URLs to get to things. So this is pretty good that you can find things this quickly. So check on that. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We will see you again in September. I don't remember the date, but it's that last Friday in September that we will have our next capital chat. Maybe we'll have a little bit more information. In the meantime, if you think of something that you would like us to talk about on the capital chat, feel free to just shoot us an email, any one of us an email, and we would, we're always looking for ideas to talk about.
Amy, Josh has his hand, Representative Turk has his hand up.
Yeah, hello, everyone. I didn't want to hijack the meeting, so I wanted to wait until the end. Just to clarify some things, the Democrat side is going to be mail-in, and that's going to be done on January 15th. There is going to be some in-person so that we meet state law, because we have to be first in the nation. And then I'm not exactly sure if they're going to announce those results at a later position and how that's all going to work. But in terms of the actual voting, it's going to be mail-in. The other thing I wanted to say is that definitely invite your legislators to absolutely everything. The truth of the matter is the vast majority of state legislators are just completely unfamiliar with the issues related to individuals with disabilities and to what's going on with Medicaid and healthcare and a myriad of issues. For me, just to put on your guys' radar some of the issues that I'm working on, disability employment issues, my work without worry bill to try to eliminate some of the income and asset limits, ban on cancerous carcinogens, also working on some of these are legislatively, not legislative, but just so you know that it's on my radar, working with Iowa Voc Rehab on some employment first ideas, on the waivers to reduce the wait time and equalize benefits, increase reimbursement to direct care workers and DSP, mental health providers reimbursement, and also changing the code to qualify for mental health, code change for what is an intellectual disability, a van and vehicle adaptation parking issue that we're working on, funding for childhood cancer, AEA funding, supporting Blueprint for Change and Money Follows the Person, voting access for the disabled, disability education awareness, anti-bullying issue that I put forth last year, paid family caregivers. As well, I'm going to be meeting with Kelly Garcia and Liz Matney, and I'm also going to be attending a Medicaid reform in DC next month. And for all of you to be aware, in November, the end of November, probably November 29th or 30th, I'm going to be doing an event here with former Senator Tom Harkin, and that'll be in Council Bluffs. And then it's looking like I'm going to do another one with Representative Rokana out of California, and that will happen probably at the end of October.
Thanks, Representative Turek. Appreciate that. And I think we're going to go ahead and sign off now because we're past 12 and we did lose our interpreter. But thank you, everybody, for attending today, and enjoy what's left of the summer. And we'll see you in September.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Representative Turek.
Thank you.